Hey guys, today I will be teaching you how to generate a photorealistic image of a person and how to then use that image to generate more images of the same person. You can use that for things like creating an AI influencer on Instagram or an AI model for advertisements or anything like that. The only prerequisite is that you will need to have the software ComfyUI installed on your computer. I have another video on my channel where I cover how to install it, so you can check it out. The first step is to generate the base image or the first image of our character. In this tutorial, we will be doing it locally using our GPU and the program ComfyUI. If you don't know how to use ComfyUI, the previous two videos on my channel explain how to install and use it. To generate a photorealistic image, we'll need to use a realistic checkpoint, which is like a modified version of a base model that will generate images in a specific style. To download a checkpoint, we can use a website like Civit AI, which is a platform where people can upload their checkpoints and LoRa's, which you can then download and use locally. So open the website now and then scroll a bit down to featured models and you will see explore all models button. Here you will see many different checkpoints and you can see there's different styles. There's realistic ones, fantasy, anime, everything you want. And of course we need to find a realistic one, so we're going to filter them out. For this you can use the search bar here and you can type, for example, real and press search. And here on the left side you actually have these different filters, and if you scroll down you can see at the very bottom there's tags, and what you do is you type, for example, photorealistic, and you press this. This will search for the photorealistic tag. We still have the word real in our search. We should actually remove it, and the best way to do it would be in the address bar here. Just delete this part and press enter. The reason why is because there are some realistic checkpoints that are using the photorealistic tag, but they don't have the word real in their name. For example, Dream Shaper here. And so what happens now is you will see every single checkpoint that has the tag photorealistic in it. And you can see there's a ton of such checkpoints. And if you're anything like me, you're probably going to spend a lot of time just browsing through the different checkpoints and choosing which ones you like the most. What I'm personally going to use in this tutorial is the Epic Realism Natural Sync checkpoint. It's not the best one, but it does give you realistic photos. It uses Stable Diffusion 1.5 and can generate images really quickly. And it has been working quite well for me. If you want the highest quality checkpoints, there is also Ultra Real Fine Tune. This is a flux-based checkpoint, which is a much better model than Stable Diffusion, but it also requires a better video card and it will take you a lot more time to generate an image. But you can see the results. You literally can't tell that this is an AI generated image. I mean, it just looks 100% realistic. There's literally not even a single indicator that this is AI. One good thing about this checkpoint is it makes the images look like they've been taken with a phone. So you can see the image is like kind of blurry, but it actually adds to the realism, because that's how images usually look like in real life, unless you're using like a really good DSLR camera. If you saw this on Instagram, you would think this is a real girl. But again, I'm going to use this Epic Realism one. I'll show you quickly how to install it. So first, there's actually different versions that you can select here if you click these buttons. I'm going to be using the first one. Then you just press download. You might need to make an account for this, but making an account is completely free and you can just log in via Google. When you download your file, simply copy it, go to your ComfyUI folder in Documents, open up Models, Checkpoints, and then paste it there. After you do that, if your ComfyUI was already open, just go to Manager and Restart. Now when your ComfyUI is restarted, open up the Models tab here, Checkpoints, and you should see your downloaded checkpoint right here. Now we have the checkpoint installed, but we also need a workflow for it. Your workflow will depend on the base model that the checkpoint uses. The easiest way to get a workflow for your checkpoint is to simply go back to Civit AI, to the checkpoint page, open one of the images, and simply save it on your computer. Then open up the folder where you saved your image, and take your image file and drag it onto ComfyUI, onto an empty workflow. And what will now happen is you will have a new tab open, and you will get the workflow that was used to generate that image. So you will get all of the settings and the nodes and the prompts and everything. Now if I press the run button, it's not going to work, I'll get an error. In this case it can't find my checkpoint. To fix this, you need to press this thing here and find the checkpoint that you downloaded, so this Epic Realism Natural Scene one. And in this case my workflow is still not going to work because it is also trying to load an upscale model here, which I do not have, but I actually don't even need an upscale model, so I can just remove this node. But in fact, for this specific checkpoint, I already have a workflow. It has some more differences than the workflow we've seen previously, the one we got from the generated image. So in this video, I'll just keep using this simple workflow of mine that I was using for this checkpoint. Now we can finally generate an image. So I already have a prompt here that I was using before. I don't have any negative prompts, and I'm using these settings, so 50 steps, 4.0 CFG. DPM++2M STE sampler, and I'm also using a custom VAE loader, and I have my resolution set to 512 to 768, and let's see what it gives us. So I press run, and this is what we got. So it does look pretty realistic, but there are some weird elements to it, like the weird people in the background, and some deformations. This can be fixed by setting a negative prompt. So this is some negative prompts you can use. I copied this from the example image from Civit AI, and let's try it with a negative prompt now. And this is the result that we get. Her face looks kind of weird. It looks almost older in a way, which didn't happen without the negative prompt. And there's still other people in the background. So what I did now is I have removed that negative prompt, and I just said people in background here, and the resulting image is this. So her face doesn't look weird anymore, and there's no more people in the background, but there's still some deformations that you can see in the hands. Now you can try and fix these deformations with negative prompts and stuff. And these deformations are actually pretty normal with Stable Diffusion 1.5. It's just not the best model for this kind of thing. You're better off using Flux. Later, I will show you how to fix the hands or any other deformations if you need to. But first, let's take a look at how to generate more images of this person by using this image as a base image. And the best way to do that is to train a LoRa of the person we generated. In order for you to have a LoRa, you need to have a bunch of pictures of the character you want, let's say like 30 or 40 pictures, and you put all of these pictures into a program, which will train a LoRa based on these pictures, and it will output a small file that you can use, and you can then put this file into ConfUI on top of your checkpoint to then easily generate more images of this character. Now the problem is, you need a bunch of pictures of this one character in order for you to actually be able to train a LoRa on it, but you only have one picture, so how can you get more pictures of it? Because we just generated one picture of this girl, and if we want to generate another picture of her, we will have to change the prompt in ConfUI, but then this can make the person look different as well, their facial features and body, etc. So how can we get more images of this girl before we can train a LoRa on her? But in 2025, the easiest way to do that is to use an image editor. There are already many different image editors available, and I'm going to show you which ones I use and how you can choose the best image editor for yourself. The easiest way to use image editors is this website called lmarena.ai. This website lets you use many different AI tools such as image generators, image editors, chat, etc. So let's see how to use it. First, when you open this website, click on the top left corner here in this battle button and change it to side by side. Then go down here and press this little generate image button. Now you have two drop-down lists here. Select model. This will show you a list of models, and it has filtered them to only show you image generators or image editors because we pressed this image button. However, we cannot use an image generator, only an image editor. And you can select, for example, Nano Banana here as the first model. And for the second model, I can select, for example, Flux 1 Context. And when I did that, you can see that a plus button here has appeared, which lets us upload an image. Now, if you select a model that can only generate images from text and cannot edit existing images, like for example this image in 4.0, you will see the plus button will disappear and you will only be able to type the prompt here. So only some of the models that you see here are actually able to do image to image. So I have selected these two models, and now I'm going to upload my image here. And now we have to type some prompt. So I can try this prompt here: edgy leather pants and graphic tee, leaning against a graffiti wall, urban alley, rebellious stance. And let's press generate and wait for it to generate. And you can now see the result. And you can see this is Flux 1 Context. This is what Flux 1 Context did. You can see that her face looks pretty much identical to the original image. And you have this result by Nano Banana, which looks really good, to be honest. This model is a lot more creative with the images. It's not afraid to change up a lot of things and add details and stuff, and the image just looks really amazing in general. So personally, I prefer this result by Nano Banana here. However, I will say that Flux 1 Context is more precise in preserving the different details of the person, like the face, because in the Nano Banana result, her face does look a little bit different, I would say. But anyway, you can then download the images by pressing the button here and here. There are a couple other image models that you can try. You could try Qwen Image Edit, Seedream 4, or GPT Image, but to be honest, personally, I just stick to Nano Banana and Flux Context. I recommend you use Nano Banana if you want very creative and beautiful images, and use Flux Context if you need precision, so if you need the face of your character in the new image to completely match the face of your character in the original image. And now I'm just gonna try one more prompt here. So I'm going to try this prompt: sitting cross-legged on a park bench, leaning back, relaxed, flowy sundress, green foliage around, soft natural light, full body view. Let's try this out. And you can see the results, and I think both images look really good here. This image is really beautiful and realistic. This is the Gemini result. This image looks great as well, and this is the Flux context result. And you can see, even though Flux context is usually very precise, it actually modified the person a lot to fit the image. So for example, the angle of her face. And I think both models did a really great job here. Now, I have told you that I will also show you how to fix the hands in our original image, and we're actually going to do that with an image editor as well. I will keep Gemini and Flux 1 context here. So I type this prompt, fix the deformations in her arms, don't change anything else. Let's see what happens. So this is the initial result, and this is what Gemini did. It basically just changed the pose of her arms, which I guess is one way to fix it. So we could say it did the job, not perfectly, because it could have just kept her arms the same way they were, which it didn't. And then we have the result by Flux, which is really bad because there is still a deformation, and also changed her face, and it added some weird artifacts to it, which I guess it is because the resolution of the image was changed. Now I did the same thing, but I used Gemini and Qwen image edit, and Gemini did fix her arms, but it changed her shoulder to be kind of weird. It wasn't like that. And then you have Qwen, which tried, but it's still not perfect. As you can see, it's still kind of fucked up. So I will try a different prompt. So now I tried saying improve her hand's anatomy, and again I used Gemini and Qwen. Now the result by Gemini is really good. However, I still don't like that it changed her shoulder up a bit, because now the size of the shoulder is similar to how it was in the original image, but it removed her hair from the shoulder and it made it look kinda glossy, which I don't like, because it is less realistic now. But it did do a very good job with the hands. And then we have Qwen here, which is much more precise. It left her shoulder intact as it was, with the hairs and all. And it also fixed her arms. Although her hand looks very large here compared to the Gemini result. Here her hand is a lot smaller. But I would say we're almost there. I would say we're like 95% there, so I will leave it at that. To be honest, this isn't really necessary unless you really need the base image itself, because we have been generating completely different images from the base image that don't have any of these issues. But if you really want to fix the hands in the base image, it might take you several attempts, and I recommend Gemini, Flux Context, and Qwen for that. Qwen, I think, is especially good at this kind of work. So I think these image editors are a great way to do this thing. Now for the prompts that I was using, if you don't know what prompt to type, you can actually ask an AI to give you some prompts as well. So I have Gemini opened here, and I just tell him this: I'm building a female AI influencer for training a LoRa, etc. I'm using image editors. Can you give me some prompts? And I press enter, and as you can see here, the AI tells us what to do. So expression, emotion, angle, or close-up, and it gives us some example prompts as well. If you just want a bunch of prompts, I find that Grok works better for that. So you can see here, all of these are just example prompts that you can just copy and use for the image editor. For example, over the shoulder view from behind, glancing back at viewer, long hair, cascading, cafe window background. And then what you want to do is just use all of these prompts that you got from the AIs and generate like 30 to 40 images in different locations, different angles, side view, back view, front view, etc. And that's how you build your dataset. After using the different prompts to generate these images, you will be able to have a nice varied dataset, just like I do here in this folder. So you can see some of the pictures here. This dataset is far from perfect because her face isn't completely consistent between pictures. So if you compare her face here and then here, there are some differences, but it's not really that noticeable. I will say though, if you are training a LoRa on your own pictures, on your own photos of yourself, that's when you're really gonna notice the differences in the face. But here, since this is a fictional character, it doesn't really matter that much. So now that you have your dataset, you are prepared to train a LoRa. And there's multiple ways to do that. You can train a LoRa locally using programs such as Cohia SS or FluxGym. I usually just do it on Civit AI because training it locally is very GPU intensive and very slow. So I'll give you a quick demonstration on how to do it on Civit AI, but be aware that this does cost some money. You see this currency here that I have, this 7K. This is currency that you have to pay for. It costs like $10 for 10K of this. So if you have a strong GPU and you don't want to pay for it, it's better for you to just do it locally. But for now, I'll show you how to do it in Civit AI. So on the Civit AI homepage, go here to this Create button and press Train a LoRa. Now you can actually choose to train a character, style, or concept LoRa. We're gonna be doing a character. So you select that and you give it a name. Click this, agree, and then drag your images here. You will need to select your entire dataset, but I will just select a few images here because I'm just doing a demonstration. Now you have to add captions or tags, and you have to choose whether you want to do tags or captions. So if you're using Stable Diffusion XL or Stable Diffusion 1.5, you want to do tags. And if you're using Flux, then it's preferable that you do captions. Now, when you're training a LoRa, even though we generated the base image with Stable Diffusion 1.5, we can actually train a LoRa on the Flux base model and then use a Flux checkpoint to generate images based on that LoRa. And this is what I'm gonna do here actually. So since I will be using Flux, I will select caption. And what you can do here is you can press auto label and you will have this window here. You can just press submit and it will start automatically labeling your image with these captions, which are basically just a description of the image. And the reason you would want to do this is so that when you're generating images based on your LoRa, if your dataset was captioned, it will be easier for the image generator to adhere to your prompt. So if we have this picture right here and you can see that the girl is laughing, and in your captions you have the words girl laughing, then when you generate images with this LoRa, the image generator will know what this person looks like when smiling. So it is very, very highly recommended that you do these captions here, and you could actually add them manually. It's just going to take a lot of time if you have a large data set. If you have like 40, 50, 60 images, it's just going to take you a very long time. However, the auto labeling tool is also not perfect, and you can see it actually failed here after trying to caption the images for a couple of minutes. So it does have its issues as well, and it does take some time. If you have like 50 images, it might take half an hour or something like that. Still, I think it is much better than manual captioning. Right, so the auto labeling finally has succeeded. I did reduce the number of images down to 3. This shouldn't be a problem for you. It should be able to handle 40, 50, 60 images easily, even more. It was probably just a temporary problem. And you can see the result. There is a very long description, actually way longer than I expected. And you can see the image is a high-resolution photograph capturing a young woman standing on a colorful street in a vibrant colonial-style neighborhood, etc. Latin American descent, which is true. Tells you what she's wearing, the background, the buildings, the street, etc. Same here, different caption. Again, Latin American, young woman, etc. Medium olive skin. It's very, very detailed. Sometimes it will get some things wrong. Here it says she's Middle Eastern. You can just change it manually, but generally this isn't even really that important. And after you have generated the captions, if you're satisfied with them, you can press next. If not, you can maybe do some manual tweaks. Then you press the checkbox here and then agree with this, press next. Now you have some details here, and here you have to select the base model. So like I said, I want to use Flux, so I will select Flux Dev. You can also tweak some parameters here. Generally, I do not. I just leave the advanced settings as they are. Then you have the estimated time, which is 33 minutes, and the cost, which is actually quite high. It's 2,000, so it would be about $2. The cost does not seem to depend on how many images you have, but it does depend on the base model. So if I would train it on a SD1.5, let's say realistic, it will only cost 500. SDXL standard is also 500, and you can also select a custom model, or you can select a checkpoint to train it on. However, I cannot seem to select Flux or any of these models. I can only use Pony, SDXL, and Illustrious. So if you want to do Flux, you just have to select the Flux base model, and if you want to do Stable Diffusion or Pony or Illustrious, then you can actually select some checkpoint. You can select the same one that we were training the base image with. This would maybe be the best option for you if you want all of your images to look exactly like the base image. But for example, something like this base model here is also really good. So this uses Pony as the base model, and it does warn us that we have put captions on the files, but this model works best with tags. So we can actually go back and fix that. And it will cost you 1000 buzz. But anyway, once you have selected the model that you want to use, you press submit here and it will start training your LoRa. And then when you click on the top right corner here, you have this training section, and you can see all of your trained LoRa's here. After it finishes training, the training status will be set to approved, as you can see with this LoRa that I've been training, and you will be able to download it. It will actually give you multiple LoRa files that you can download. You should just download all of them. For each of the LoRa files or for each epoch, it will show you 3 example images, so that you can see how it looks like with each of the files, because it is possible that some of the epochs will look better than others, and it even has a recommended one, which is the epoch number 5, which it has determined to be the best one. The example images sometimes might look kind of weird, as you can see here, very weird image, but that doesn't really matter. You shouldn't really judge the LoRa based on the example images. So what we're going to do now is put the LoRa files into the conf.ui folder, so copy those files. And in your Conf.ui folder, open the models folder and then LoRa's and paste your files here. And now I have an example workflow for the ultra real checkpoint, which is a flux checkpoint. And I will try to load this LoRa here and generate an image based on the LoRa. I will use the same prompt that I've used for generating the base image. And here I will set strength model to 1 and strength clip to 1, which will make it as close to the LoRa as possible, or as precise as possible, preserving the details of the person that we're generating. And now in this drop-down list, I will select my LoRa, which is the 5th epoch here. Now I will press run, and it is going to take a while for it to generate, because this uses the flux model. Now the image has finished generating, and this is the result. It's not perfect. It is a bit washed. This is a problem that I sometimes have with this model and with flux models when I generate them on my GPU. I'm not sure why this happens, but her face does look kinda similar to the base image, but not really. There can be several reasons for that. One is that the prompt could be better, and the second reason is just that, to be honest, training a LoRa is really hard, and more often than not you will fail because your dataset wasn't good enough. And that's just what happens. And it just means you either don't have enough images, or they're not varied enough, or the person you're trying to generate doesn't look consistent enough in your images, in your dataset. So maybe there are some differences in the face or things like that, which can happen if you're using some of the more creative image editors like Gemini, for example. So if you're not satisfied with the results of the images that were generated with your LoRa, it just means you need to go back and build a better dataset and then train a LoRa again. And you can try out different checkpoints and base models. If you want to practice, I recommend just using Stable Diffusion for now, because it will be faster for you to generate images and cheaper and faster for you to train the LoRa based on them. Then if you're satisfied with the Stable Diffusion LoRa, you can train a LoRa with the Flux model. I will say though, you don't actually even need a LoRa anymore because the image editors are just so good and they just keep improving. I mean, Nano Banana was released just very recently, a few months ago. There's going to be more and more improvements, and I'm starting to ask myself if a LoRa is even necessary anymore, which I think it's honestly not really. If you want to create some sort of an influencer or something and upload pictures to Instagram, you can probably get away with just using the Nano Banana image editor or the Flux context editor and skip the LoRa step altogether. One more thing I didn't mention is that when you're training a LoRa with some specific base model, like if you're training a LoRa with Stable Diffusion XL, you can only use Stable Diffusion XL checkpoints to generate the images based on that LoRa. You cannot use Flux to generate images with a LoRa that was trained on Stable Diffusion, or vice versa. So just keep that in mind. That was the end of the video, guys. I hope it was clear to you and I hope you achieved the results that you wanted. If not, feel free to ask for help in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.